Four events down, four to go in the FedEx Cup Fall, and we are clear across the Pacific Ocean this week for the ZOZO Championship in Chiba, Japan, where it is already Thursday. Yet, here in the United States, as we record this on Wednesday afternoon, it is Wednesday, quite obviously. So if you do some quick math, you'll determine that the tournament has already started. But for the purposes of this podcast with the Golfbet Insider, PGATour.com, Rob Bolton, we're just going to pretend it hasn't. What's happening, big fella?
And I'll see your Thursday in Japan and Wednesday afternoon where you are with a Wednesday morning where I am at the moment as we're recording. So this sounds like chapter one of how I can explain daylight saving time in Arizona to you. Again, another podcast, hour and a half. If you ever have the time, you know I'm ready for it.
Can we just have one time zone? It would be a lot easier on my 92-year-old mother. She keeps asking me if we could just have one time zone, Rob.
That's a solution I haven't heard yet. I'm going to have to chew on that one. I'm not saying no.
So let's start with the man from the land of the rising sun, Hideki Matsuyama, who won a couple years ago in 2021. Hideki is around plus 800, and he's going to see some heavy action this week.
Not around plus 800, you nailed it. You win a prize. And I think he'll win some prizes for some people this week if you bet him to win. He's been number one in the power rankings. There's just a momentum that he has this year that pushed him to number one. I mean, yeah. So Xander Schauffele, for the record, as we're speaking, is plus 450 as the favorite. And that's been pretty steady for the last 24 hours. And Colin Morikawa at plus 700, number two. Matsuyama plus 800. So those guys, pick your horse. I've picked Matsuyama top the power rankings, as you said, former winner in 21, career year up until that point, and still remains a career year. He's still got a long career to go. So, but it's going to be difficult to do any better than the Masters and then winning the ZOZO Championship in the same calendar year as he did. 2 wins this year, of course. He's always a little careful. He's not careful. I'm careful to endorse him other than in the vacuum of he's not going to be injured and withdraw mindset, and that's always the concern, of course, with the guy from our perspective in the betting and the fantasy world, all the gaming involved. The option is not to play and invest in one of the other two guys and hope Matsuyama withdraws, but at least you're not worried about it if that ends up being the case. But there are terrific storylines around all three of these guys. Matsuyama was my guy because he's done it here before. Morikawa is defending. That hasn't happened here yet, and Morikawa hasn't won this year yet. So that's a really fine line, but it's still a line. And then Schauffele, the betting favorite, hasn't played really well yet at the ZOZO. So only a T9 among two top tens. But yet I endorsed him in the Golf Bet Insiders, the guy having the magic. So yeah, it sounds like I'm hedging, but I mean, there are strong reasons to endorse all three of these guys. I would just want to pick one and then fill up the card another way. So that's a lot of information off the top because we really do have three guys who deserve probably equal odds entering the week.
Yeah, Morikawa around plus 700 is the betting favorite right now as the defending champion. Beau Hossler is the man who's seventh in Rob Bolton's power rankings this week. He was the runner-up in a playoff to Kevin Yu at the Sanderson Farms Championship just last month. He was second at Narashino in this event a year ago. Big Beau with a lot of career runner-up finishes. Rob keeps banging on the door, and his price is plus 3,300 this week.
Yeah, he's back from some redemption after that T2 because he led halfway through the tournament. Now, there's no cut. Same guys on the weekend that he was trying to beat, and beat all but one. Obviously, Morikawa rushing away with it with an incredible final round, and Hossler sort of shared the B Flight title there. Of course, he was going to be in the power rankings with or without the T2 here last year. But yeah, he's got a little bit of chip on his shoulder. I like that.
One of the unique aspects of this tournament is that we are introduced to some Japanese stars that maybe as fans in the United States, we don't know a whole lot about. A couple players granted exemptions off their performance on the Japan Golf Tour. If you're looking for a flyer, big fella, Kensei Hirata, 100-1 this week. You could do a lot worse than this 23-year-old who's number one in earnings on the Japan Golf Tour.
At some point, one of these Japan Golf Tour players in the field via its connection to the tournament will win this tournament. There's just too much talent. It's growing in that country. we think of Hideki Matsuyama and others who have come through before him, Shigeki Maruyama before him, Jumbo Ozaki. I know I'm missing a lot of other guys, but since Satoshi Kodaira, who won on the PGA Tour at Harbour Town. But these guys, they have played really well as amateurs, and that's when you can tell, oh, they're coming along a little more quickly. They flattened out. There's a bit of a plateau in terms of their global impact. Winning on the PGA Tour, arguably the hardest thing to do in all of golf. Kodaira did it. Not saying Hirata's going to win this week. He is number 8 in the power rankings, but he's atop the tour's money list. He T6 here last year. So if you 100 to 1 is awesome, but if you're thinking about getting something out of him, maybe just retreat into a top 10, which is really a nice compliment for the guy. Other than Matsuyama, he's the guy from that tour who plays that tour specifically who has captured my interest the most this week.
You mentioned Takumi Kanaya, who's actually 80 to 1. His odds are a little bit shorter. He's second on the Japan Golf Tour money list to Hirata, and his form has been impeccable. What a heater he's been on. Second, W, fourth, last 3 starts coming into the week here.
Yeah, so I'm careful to not to equate apples to apples form on the Japan Golf Tour to what we expect from the guys from the PGA Tour who have made the trip over. But he's number 11 in the power rankings. A lot of respect there. Has a previous top 10 at Narashino. That's now 3 years ago. You mentioned he's second on the earnings list. I mean, and we know more about him because he's played more PGA Tour competition. When we talk about Japan golf, typically the greens are much slower on that tour for lots of different reasons. The rain, number one, that always falls, it seems, during a Japan Golf Tour event helps with that. But talent also overall is a little bit lesser than it is on the PGA Tour. So we adjust that, much like we would perhaps for the Korn Ferry Tour. Let's just leave it at that for that particular part of the example. However, this week, the greens are supposed to run at about 12.5 on the stimp. Again, maybe not because the rain possibility. Xander Schauffele said the greens are really slick in advance. Again, rain could change things. He thinks scoring's going to be a little bit higher this week if it doesn't rain. Obviously, that's kind of always the case here, but Kanaya finally has a little bit more experience for me to be confident in endorsing him in the power rankings for this tournament. He already checks all of the other boxes, but form especially is terrific. So, we talk about winning is winning. There's some relativity to that, but again, when we're talking about 80 to 1 to win or whatever it might be for top 10, look at that other market, secondary markets, because you're still going to get tremendous plus value for them.
Thought we might see Shohei Ohtani in your power rankings this week, by the way. No?
That's on my subscription site. I'll give you the password offline later.
It's a really good field, and that means there's some really juicy sleepers. Big names like Rob Bolton, Max Homa, by the way, who Rob Bolton is endorsing this week as his outright winner. His form has been so lackluster. I guess that's why he falls into the sleeper category, right? So you've got your eyes on Max at plus 5,000 to maybe sneak out of Chiba with the title this week.
Yeah, you've never been more wrong. I have never snuck up on anybody. That has never been a classification for the big fella. After I knocked through the power rankings in this field specifically, there are 63 golfers remaining, and there was really a small subset of guys remaining. Homa, Siwoo Kim, Maverick McNeely, maybe. It's like Max Homa. Why not just Ricky Fowler? He's playing just as well. Put air quotes. And I'm not trying to slight these guys. They know it. They don't care what I say necessarily, but for sure that's what I mean. But Homa's coming off the President's Cup victory. He scored the last point. He talked about how much that meant to him. We've seen him. He's proven 6-time winner in the PGA Tour. A win would be an incredible story for him specifically. He'd probably downplay it because that's who he is, and we love him for it even more. But the fact is, at 50 to 1, Max Homa to win a golf tournament after what just happened, it's really kind of that simple. Have fun with it. If you have a reserve stash of units that you haven't used all year, and you want to I want to play one at a specific time when these stars align for a guy like that, this is one of those times. Go ahead and use it. Have fun with it. You never know. At 50 to 1, Max Homa. I mean, he was one of the guys less than 2 years ago I thought was one of the top 4 players in the world. And, whether the stats bear it out or not, he didn't have a major yet and still doesn't. Yeah, it's easy to be a fan of the guy, but he's just so relatable and real. And yeah, he's been in a slump But the President's Cup and the vibe and the dynamic, it's like turning a page, starting a new chapter, and he gets to do that this week.
Break glass for your emergency stash only if you want to back Max Homa this week. You've been nails in the top 5 space all year. I want to give it to you. Will Zalatoris is the guy this week. What kind of value are we looking at there in top 5?
Well, when I wrote it, plus 550, and he was the first one to break through for the top 5 prop at the Genesis Invitational. He was the co-runner-up. Yeah, I've been very happy with that this week. In fact, last week, KH Lee was my top 20 out of top 5, and naturally I was thinking, of course, I had him down there in the top 20. I didn't want to lean into that far. There's so much correlation, it seems, between TBC Craig Ranch and TPC Summerlin, I've learned in the last couple of weeks. So I'm logging that note for the future, by the way. Yeah, Zalatoris, I mean, he's a ball striker by nature. The stats do not help him at all this year. He has acknowledged that he has dealt with trying to recover and return from the back injury in the long term. He's had a few great short weeks, and he has plenty of time to figure it out. Here's an opportunity at again plus 550, not in the power rankings, limited subset of guys who have that firepower that you're looking for that finish, and he's definitely one of them.
I really like your top 20 this week. I got to tell you, Kevin Yu, who won the Sanderson Farms Championship, but who missed the cut by 4 in Las Vegas at the Shriners. That, however, has actually boosted his value this week. So top 20, essentially you've got to finish in the top third of a limited field here this week if you're Kevin Yu, and you're getting a nice plus 230 kickback if he does.
It's funny how much I actually thought of you when I wrote this, because I remember you said something earlier this year about convince you why a bad result in the previous finish is good for us. And I'm like, man, I used to be a sales guy in a former life. I loved the connection with people. I wasn't a great salesperson. And I remembered, I just needed to do a better job of conveying the message. And the message is, last week he got caught up on the wrong side of the draw. Only 21 from the late early cash TPC Summerlin. It was a crazy one-sided advantage. So I'm not going to hold that against him. Then there's Doug Gim, his story. Not in any of my preview material this week. Basically would have won the tournament relative to par of like strokes gained wind with the decided things. And you obviously was caught up in that. So the thing about him is he obviously just wanted earlier this month. He's coming off that for the top 20 at plus 230. Incredible value for a guy who could win a competition among golfers to hit greens in regulation. This week, that's the idea. Short course, doesn't have to hit driver, and then it can just pummel the other guys by setting up the scoring opportunities. So the key there is we're going to need him to roll him some putts. Top quarter of the field, top 20 out of 78, but for plus 230 for a guy who's going to contend for leading the field in greens in regulation, I like how all of that sets up. I just can't believe he's as long as 230. He was an automatic top 20.
I'm emotionally depleted after the NLCS, big fella, and I'm torn on the World Series. Normally, I subscribe to the theory of I'm rooting against whichever team just took out my team, as the Dodgers just did to the Mets. But on the other side, you've got the Yankees, who I don't have disdain for. They're New York's other team, but they also don't need a 28th World Series title. So I don't know. Maybe I'll just let it kind of wash over me and hope for some great moments.
Yeah, let's look for some good baseball. Let's hope that, a mistake or an umpire situation doesn't ruin a game and experience, and we're talking about that instead. Hopefully that's not the case. It's the World Series. I do not watch the Super Bowl every year. I do not watch the NFL. It's on Sundays. That's when my work week starts. So I miss all of that fun. Obviously, I'm a baseball guy, and it's the World Series. It's October, and look forward to that. I still owe you, however. I still owe you a payback for the bet that I lost this year. So
Forget about it.
No. It's pocketed. I just got to get it to you. So at some point very soon, I'm sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, the next time I see you will not be virtually on this podcast. It'll be in a couple weeks out in Phoenix. I'll be out there for the Charles Schwab Cup Championship. And hopefully we can convene, have some unhealthy deep dish pizza and a few cold ones.
I hope so. Do not miss your flight. I'm counting on it. I'll see you there.